Shell Beach this morning. Beautiful morning, no wind. Already seeing lots of bait. There he is. Well, that's a pretty good sign. Second cast, decent trout. Measure him real quick. We are keeping fish today. And he is a solid 14 and a half. What we're doing, we're fishing canals that run into each other, deep holes. Tide is still falling. This is typically a good incoming tide spot, but tide is still falling a little bit. So we may have to wait them out a little bit. But this big lagoon drains into this canal. And this canal's been dug out from the tide going back and forth. And so typically, on a falling tide, or when the tide's about to bottom out, there was another one. When the tide's about to bottom out, the fish will kind of be in the middle of that bowl. This makes a big bowl where I am. The fish will be in the bottom of that big bowl. Then when the tide starts to come in, they'll hold by these ledges that these canals make, and when they intersect, they make a drop off, and they'll hold on those ledges. So, man, it's got thumped again. I think I'm sitting on top of him. Good grief. That was a gator or what? I don't know if the camera picked that up, but I sure did. We were here last week and caught some really pretty trout. Not limits, but certainly enough for a good fish fry. And it was on an incoming tide. And all these fish were just kind of congregated in these bowls, these intersections of canals. And so what we're doing today is we're not fishing spots. Okay, everybody likes to fish spots. If you've watched Captain Devin on LAFB Elite, if you haven't, you should. It's a great channel. But he preaches, and I strongly agree, you don't fish spots. You fish conditions. There was another one. you fish conditions. And so what we were trying to do this morning is catch the incoming tide, but it's still falling a little bit. That's okay, we'll wait them out. But if they're in one spot, they're there for a reason. And so what you want to try to do is figure out the reason that they're there. And in this case, they were there because the current was bringing bait in, and the fish were sitting on the ledges and ambushing bait when it came over the top of them. And what we found is the fish that we caught were full of violet gobies. Almost every fish had a violet goby in his belly, which told me the fish were down deep hugging the bottom. And so what we're going to do today is fish the same location we were in last week, but we're also going to find other locations that kind of match that, intersecting canals with deep holes, because if they're here for that reason, bait, current bringing bait in, stands to reason they're going to be in those other places for the same reason. So that's how we're going to fish them. That's what we're going to try to do today, if this boat doesn't run me over. I do not want to bite right now. Oh, and I just had one. I do not want to set this hook. All right, he's off. Anyway, water clarity is not bad. Temps in the 70s. Wind, there's absolutely no wind right now. And the gnats are here. They're not quite as bad as they were last week, but they're definitely here. What's funny is we were here, I guess, Friday of last week, a week ago, and Clayton hung into a redfish. I'll put pictures on the video. It was about, well, it was over 38 inches because my ruler only goes to 38. Oh, there was a hit. And it had to be about 40 inches on the inside still, which is crazy. I think this is just a hypothesis of mine, but I think that with the drought that we had this year, that salt water was able to push the salinity is a lot higher now than it should be, and so we may have, there he is, good trout, sitting on that ledge. No, it's not a trout. All right, so here's the thing, croaker. You can hear him croaking. The other thing that those trout were feeding on were small croaker, like this. Hear him croaking. So what that tells me, that croaker's here. There's other croakers here. I'm going to switch to a croaker color, which I have, and I'll show you these baits in a little bit. But I'm going to switch to a croaker color, and it's one of the things that we really have been trying to do, focus on with our baits, is make more baits that closely match what bigger trout are feeding on, which are finfish. Your croaker, finger mullet, glass minnows especially, pogies, that sort of thing. It just stands to reason if you can match what they're feeding on, you're going to have a better chance of hooking up. I'm so glad I had this pullover in my truck, because I grabbed a long sleeve Columbia shirt from the house before I left to go to the camp, and went to put it on this morning, and it was my wife's. You ever see Fat Guy in a Little Coat? Chris Farley? That's what it looked like. So all I had with me was a short sleeve shirt, and I'm thankful that I did not take this thing out of my truck from the last fishing trip, because I would be getting eaten alive right now. I didn't put my buff on. I get in my ears. Now I see behind me, let me not doing anything stupid here. I see behind me, there's a lot of finger mullet, but they're on top. As mullet usually are. But that tells me that there's a lot of finger mullet as bait in the marsh, which is good, because we've got a color for that too. I think this tide is just about finished falling, because the boat hasn't moved. There he is. That's a good trout. And he barely hit it. He was just kind of laying on it. I think that's a trout. It's kind of digging like a redfish. Oh, that's a good trout. Ooh. That's a good trout, Pawpaw. Now, what I was saying about bigger trout feeding on finfish, that trout right there hit our croaker colored storm minnow right there. And I'll show you more of the baits in a little bit, but that's a solid fish. Let's measure them. Right at 17. Perfect. Didn't miss him that time. That's a good trout. All right, so here we go. That is a beautiful trout. And I'll show you. He has got that croaker just choked down, all the way down. God, I love this bait. It's another 17. Beautiful. Number 7. We might, no, I'm not even going to say it, because I'll jinx it. 6-foot gar that's been breaking the surface this morning. I've heard you can eat them. I guess it's all according to how hungry you are, but I ain't that hungry today. I'm gonna get 100 comments. Brah, gar's the best thing you can eat, dude. Make gar balls. My mama and them used to make gar balls. I don't doubt it. Yeah, we got a good east wind now. Incoming tide. There he is. That's a good fish. Really good fish. He didn't choke it down. I barely felt him hit it. That's a solid 16 or so. Pretty spots on the tail. Yep, right at 16. That makes number 7. It's so much fun, man. And we've just had such good success just focusing on matching the bait with what they're eating. Is. So you remember I said about that little tide line that forms? Ooh, flipped him right in. I just moved over to see if they were biting on that other side that I pointed out earlier. And there's another 15, 16 inch fish. So we've got about, 9 or 10 in the box. Good trout between 14 and 17 inches. I'm going to show you what we're fishing. The spot doesn't matter. We're fishing conditions. So you've got this major bayou that comes in, bringing clean water in, intersects with this canal, but it hits this bank and then it continues on that way. It just makes a big T, and you can see when the current comes in, it's starting to boil against that bank there, and the trout are hanging on that ledge. We've got about looks about a 9-foot depth here, and if I can, I'll swing around and show you kind of what the drop-off looks like. This is what you should be looking for. Get the trolling motor going. So I'm heading up where this intersection is. See, there's fish on the screen right there, right underneath me. At about a solid 9 feet. There's more fish on the screen. Then it starts dropping off to 10 and a half. Should get to about 11 at some point. And we're at 11 now. 11, almost 12. And so when that tide comes in, it just scours that bottom out. See, there's fish right there on that drop off. It's one of the places I was catching them this morning, those yellow lines, that's fish. Now I'm gonna spin around and go over here, right off that point. That's where we were catching most of them. We caught a lot of fish there this morning too. I'm gonna try and stay on that screen for you. See 11, now it's coming up. It's gonna get to 10, then it's gonna get to 9. I'm heading for that point over there. And then you're gonna see, because this bayou does not go all the way through at dead ends, this is gonna get really shallow relatively quick. It's gonna make a ledge. Matter of fact, it's starting right now. It's coming up to 7, 6. I'm getting close to that point. 5. Stupid garfish again. So that's the drop off. If I turn the boat around, so we're going back the other way. Pick up the drop off again if I can get the glare off the screen. There we go. And this is where I was catching most of the fish this morning, on where that ledge just drops off. Right there. And so that's kind of it. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to say you want to fish conditions, not spots. This spot, there's 100 spots like this in the marsh. So you don't have to get locked in to just one location. Everybody knows spots. But when you find a place where you got canals that are intersecting, you've got tide coming in, you've got irregular bottom features like that, right? That holds fish, and there's even fish on the bottom there. So find your location that you're catching fish, figure out why those fish are there, why are they biting, what's the current doing, what's the tide doing, what's the weather doing, and start building you a database of, hey, when one spot dries up, like this one's kind of shut down, we've got 4 or 5 more that we're going to go check right now.